Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been recording on their way to go camping since 2017. I'm your producer, Rob Diesendorf, here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other for years. They decided to come together to help you win your league and make your friends look like idiots. How's it going, boys?
Great. That's so vintage Rob on his way to a camping trip. He was just on a business trip last week. The man's going camping now. He's just He's the most interesting man in the world.
Going up into the Catskills.
All over the damn map.
Recording in the car right now with three of my buddies. You guys,
love it.
What's up, guys? We got Neil, Mark, and Trevor.
Love it. You're gonna have them as like guest appearances today on the pod.
Maybe if they want to be. You guys want to be guests?
Yeah, we can talk about Josh Gordon.
I'm going to say no for them.
Maybe not yet. We're talking about running backs first, but yeah.
I'm actually in the car right now. We're on our way up to the Catskills, and by the time you're listening to this, I may or may not be dead, attacked by a bear. Who knows what's going to happen?
Hey, man, as long as you're not driving.
I don't really know what's going to happen, so just send me your thoughts and prayers, and that's all we can hope for. Hope for the best.
As long as you're not driving.
So today's I'm driving.
You're the one driving?
Oh yeah, I'm driving and recording at the same time. Why wouldn't I?
You're the one driving?
That's so Rob.
Yeah. What the
No, he's definitely not. He's definitely lying to you.
I'm kidding. I'm
I knew it.
Are you crazy?
You scared me there. That's not... Yeah, okay. Wow. Anyway.
So today is another Positional Summit. We're going to be talking about... Or we're breaking this up into two episodes, right? What are we talking about today?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about running backs first. So basically the same same format as we did quarterbacks and tight ends. We just combined those two into one episode because it's pretty much one guy per team for those positions. Running backs, there's a lot more. So we're going to have a lot more content for you in the channels for running backs. But
Content.
But yeah, we're going to go round by round and name which guys are overvalued, undervalued, who you should take, who you should stay away from. And then kind of like the biggest home run potential over and undervalued and things of that nature. And then we'll get into wide receivers after that. It's going to be fun.
All right.
All right, so let's start looking at these running back tiers, Scott. And unlike the quarterbacks and tight ends that we talked about last week, we got to talk about round one because this is where most people want to take their first running back. So our round one running backs currently are Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Zeke Elliott, Alvin Kamara, and Saquon Barkley. Scott, do you think any of these guys deserves to be mentioned ahead of the other ones, or maybe some of these guys don't belong? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think they all belong, and for all good reasons, obviously. These guys are like the bell cow backs of today. They're all getting most of the carries on their teams, with the exception of Kamara when Ingram comes back from a 4-week suspension. And all these guys are pretty much the most talented, with the exception there's some in round two that may be in a worse situation or more injury prone. I'll highlight. I mean, Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson coming back from an injury. I'm not really worried about those three. They're all going to get probably 300 carries and a handful of catches. So they should all do well. I'm not sure how well Gurley's going to do compared to last year, which is like a historic year. There's bound to be some regression down there. So I think Bell, I have him above, and then maybe DJ even over Gurley, just in terms of how I think they're going to do this year. Barkley is unproven, but he should get the lion's share of carries. Jonathan Stewart is going to vulture some TDs, so something to be aware of. Zeke and Kamara are two a little more interesting to me. Zeke's efficiency plummeted last year in his time. I think he had a 5.4 running yards per carry in his rookie year, and I think it went down to 4.1 last year. So his efficiency kind of scares me, and now that Dez and Witten aren't there, Dak's going to probably take a regression. That passing game won't be good. So Zeke, I would take him at the latter end of these guys. Kamara also, not doubting his skills. This guy was unbelievable efficiency-wise last year, but that's bound to regress as well, just statistically. And he's never been a bell cow back, if you want to think about it that way, and he will be for 4 weeks, so we don't know how he's going to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm I hear what you're saying, but as far as Kamara goes, I think whatever he loses efficiency-wise, he's going to gain in more touches. So I think he's actually safer than people realize. I personally, I might get some flack for saying this. The one guy out of this group that I'm a little shaky on is Saquon Barkley. I know he's going to touch the ball a ton, but he's already banged up with a hamstring injury. And, can the Giants run the ball? Like, do they have a good offensive line? Not really. So to me, I still like him. I still think he deserves to be a first rounder, but he's the one that if I pick him in round one, I feel the least confident in my first round pick. Not saying, he could end the year as the overall top player like Gurley was last year, but he's the one I'm a little bit shakiest on. So just food for thought. The first four, I would say, lock and load. Like I love Antonio Brown, but I would take those four running backs over Antonio Brown all day, especially in a PPR because they all catch the ball a ton. And running backs that catch the ball a ton, they're going to give you the most value in round one. So that's what I would go with there. Let's move on to round two, and this is where things really start to heat up, Scott. So there's another 6 backs in this range. So these guys kind of round out the RB1 territory for me.
Yeah, me too.
And those guys are Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, and Devontae Freeman. Who jumps off the page to you here?
Yeah, I think Melvin Gordon jumps off the page, Leonard Fournette, and Dalvin Cook. Not particularly in that order, but I think those 3 guys are going to get the lion's share of carries. Not that the other 3 aren't, but for certain reasons, Kareem Hunt has Spencer Ware back as his backup, who got hurt last year, and that's the only reason Kareem Hunt just exploded on the scene. So Spencer Ware's back. They added Damian Williams as a pass-catching back. A little competition for Hunt. We don't know how Pat Mahomes is going to do as a quarterback for that team, so maybe they'll rely more on the run, but might have an off year compared to last year. Christian McCaffrey, I'm not particularly worried about who'd they add again?
C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, CJ. I'm not. No, I knew he was like a fat running back. I just forgot his name. Another fatty. I'm not really worried about him like vulturing carries too much, but his like stature kind of scares me as like a between the carries running back. Like you saw him playing in real life. Like how did he look between the tackles?
He's always kind of been like the between the tackle short yardage guy, even though he's not that big. He's just like super wide. I do see him vulturing some touchdowns for sure, but with McCaffrey I think he catches the ball enough that if you're in a PPR it really won't matter. He's grown on me a lot. The Panthers team as a whole is really growing on me. The more I think about them, the more I look at the numbers, I say, okay, Christian McCaffrey, if he carries the ball 50 more times than last year, which is very, very possible, he's still going to be an RB1, especially in PPR.
Yeah. So yeah, PPR wise, McCaffrey and Freeman, like they get bumped up to maybe like close to the beginning of his list over Fournette, and that's it because Fournette doesn't catch it. I think with Gordon and Fournette, you have to draft their handcuffs. So for Fournette, that might be Corey Grant. For Melvin Gordon, I think it's Austin Eckler. Dalvin Cook is also pretty injury prone, so try to get Latavius Murray as well as a handcuff. But these guys, like you really want to handcuff. We're going to get into that a little later. The only guy I would downgrade is probably Freeman. He had 800 yards rushing last year, which is not good for his standards. And then Hunt, I think, is going to take a step back. I think Dalvin Cook is going to be a top 5 running back this year.
Yep, I'm with you. I was just going to say, I think Dalvin Cook is like, if I'm picking at the 9-10 range, I'm getting Dalvin Cook at some point. I may even take him in the first round and then just take whoever falls.
One league.
I just think he's going to be an absolute star this year. He's definitely someone that I'm trying to get on my teams. Maybe won't get him because I'm picking in a weird spot, but he's one. I think he could end the year as the top overall running back if things break right in Minnesota. I agree with you on Freeman. Yeah. Concussions scare me with Freeman. He's had a ton. He had 1 or maybe 2 last year.
2 last year, yeah.
Yeah, so that just scares me off a little bit. If you pick first or second and you're at the back end of round 2, front end of round 3, that's pretty much where he's going. I don't know. It's still up in the air. There's plenty of good wide receivers in that territory. So Freeman is a guy I'm putting a little bit of hesitation out there on.
What makes you think Cook is going to have a breakout season this year, like compared to last year? What changed?
Oh well, he looked incredible to start last year, and also just coming out of college, he was one of those guys I saw play a handful of times in college, and I said, oh my God, this guy is unreal. And then he landed in Minnesota, who had a terrible offensive line, so I wasn't super, into him last year. But the first couple weeks of the year, he was just an RB1. He was incredible. So he goes down with the ACL, and obviously that's a huge bummer. But it was an early injury, sort of like Deshaun Watson, where it's early enough that he's going to bounce back, be his normal self. So I think Cook, prime for a breakout.
Yeah, at Florida State in his senior year in 2016, he had 2,200 yards from scrimmage with 20 touchdowns. He also had 20 touchdowns his junior year, or his last year, and then his second to last year, he had 20 touchdowns. So before he went down with injury, he only played 4 games. He had 74 attempts, so it's almost 20 a game. 354 yards rushing, which is almost 5 yards a carry. 2 touchdowns. So if you extrapolated that out, I mean, you're looking at 1,400 yards his rookie year, 8 touchdowns through the rushing, and he had 11 receptions in 4 games. So you're looking at 50 receptions with 90 yards here. So that's 300. That's 400 yards. So he would have, if he kept the pace up last year, he would have had like 1,800 yards from scrimmage. And he might not have kept it up, but that's like RB1, top 5 RB1.
Absolutely.
And Jerick McKinnon is gone now, so I think Latavius Murray is going to vulture some carries, but he's not nearly as talented as Cook was or is.
Yep. So we definitely are in on Dalvin Cook for this year. He, for me, has got to be like the bandwagon guy. He's just incredible. But we'll get to that later. Let's look at rounds 3 and 4, and this is where it gets we see the value kind of drops off a cliff a little bit here. So rounds 3 and 4, the running backs going in these 2 rounds, right? 2 full rounds. There's only about 4 running backs going here. LaShawn McCoy, Jerick McKinnon, Joe Mixon, and Jordan Howard. Scott, what do you think about these guys going in this range?
Yeah, the only one I like is Mixon, honestly. McCoy has had some offseason shit, and he's like 30 years old now. He's an asshole. I'm not taking him. I think he's bound to fall off a cliff efficiency-wise. Jerick McKinnon is in one of the best situations for himself now. He's one of the highest-paid players. He's on the 49ers. It remains to be Jerk McChicken. Yeah, your boy.
He's really come on since Rob gave him that nickname.
Yeah, dude, honestly, he's getting paid a lot since that.
I just want to interject real quick. I said this last year, but I'll say it again. If McDonald's actually did come out with the Jerk McChicken, I feel like
that's
would
on
sell.
you.
That'd be good, I think.
Well, first of all, you need
good.
royalties from that because that was all you, not McDonald's.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would sell. But yeah, having said that, McKinnon efficiency-wise, the last 2 seasons has been one of the worst in the NFL. So just like food for thought when you're taking him 25th, 26th overall as your second running back. I did in one league, and I don't have buyer's remorse, but I just feel like it's kind of early for someone that he's not going to be an efficient runner. And maybe he will in Kyle Shanahan's offense like Devontae Freeman did. And he's made stars out of running backs that came from nowhere. But the guy I really like here is Mixon on Cincinnati. They got rid of Jeremy Hill, so they only have Giovanni Bernard, who's the third down back and can't handle a full workload. Mixon, I feel like, is going to get 300 carries this year as they try to establish a run. I have him like a top 10 running back.
Wow. See, that makes me feel better about this round, just knowing you feel good about him, because I really don't know what to think about him. He was okay last year. I wouldn't say he's good last year, but he was okay.
No.
He was definitely a little bit banged up. But I agree. I don't like McCoy at all. Howard really scares me because he's kind of like a dinosaur. Like he's one of those guys that like he just can't catch the ball. Like he has a little T-Rex arms, and he just he's going to get left behind with natural selection here. I could definitely see Tariq Cohen taking a big part of that backfield.
That's the problem in that offense.
So if you look at the other 2, you like Mixon, I love McKinnon. These 2 are probably the 2 I feel best about here, and it's sort of scary. If you go wide receiver in the first 2 picks, you're looking at one of these guys as your top running back. That scares me a lot, honestly. Yeah, I know I was a big. I talked a lot about the 0 RB strategy in past pods, but with Darius Geis going down and a couple of these guys looking terrible in the preseason, like Ronald Jones. I don't know. It's probably not the year for me to be doing that strategy. I'll just put it out there. I like Mixon, and I love McKinnon, though.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because like when we were first talking about that, let's break that down really quick. When we were first talking about that, like, so that basically is like you take 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds, and then you worry about running backs later. Like you could fill in with rookie running backs. Rashad Penny on Seattle, hurt, may not start the season, not the starter either. Ronald Jones looks terrible, Tampa Bay. Sony Michel hurt on New England, and there's 4 other running backs there. Jordan Howard can't catch the ball in Matt Nagy's offense. Like Tariq Cohen is probably a better suit for that, and he's just one-dimensional. You're right. Like Kenyon Drake, they have a little logjam there, but he, if you take away a few big runs, which we'll get to, last year he wasn't that great. Like who do you take then? Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry are splitting carries. That's a tough strategy. So that's why you really need at least one of those guys in rounds 1 and 2 to really solidify your team to begin with.
Yeah, so just before we move on to rounds 5 and 6, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I'm not saying that Christian McCaffrey or Devontae Freeman give you the most value in round 2, because they probably don't. I'd probably rather have AJ Green or Michael Thomas there. But if you're looking at Christian McCaffrey as your RB1, or, I don't know, Jordan Howard, or maybe even like Mark Ingram coming off of a four-week suspension, I feel much better having McCaffrey in there. At least he's going to get a ton of touches.
Right.
So that's just something to keep in mind. All right. With that being said, let's look at rounds 5 and 6. Really the heart of the RB2 territory, I would say here. So we have Kenyon Drake, Royce Freeman over in Denver, the rookie. He's actually the one rookie that's looking pretty good so far.
Right.
Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis from Tennessee. Alex Collins in Baltimore. Jay Ajayi, Lamar Miller, and then Mark Ingram is going in the back end of this range, like the end of round 6, really. So who here do you like as an RB2, Scott?
I love Royce Freeman on Denver. He's probably the guy there. Devontae Booker, who kind of took over a little bit last year, is a terrible runner. 3.4 yards per carry last year or something like that. So Royce Freeman's going to be the guy. He was super productive at Oregon. He can catch the ball. He's the guy there. And I feel like with Case Keenum, they're gonna ground and pound it. If you look at Latavius, like with Case Keenum last year on the Vikings, they ran the ball a ton. Latavius Murray had like 20 carries a game. Same with Jerk McChicken. So Royce Freeman's probably going to get a ton of carries because Case Keenum can keep the defenses pretty honest. So I'm staying away from the Tennessee running backs. Too much going on there. Alex Collins, not proven really. Jay Ajayi, I like him as like a flex guy though. Lamar Miller is really boring, but he's a flex guy also. Mark Ingram, I really like here. I think he's a steal, and I've taken him in every single league that I've drafted so far, all 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are not going to want to wait those 4 weeks, so they'll probably just pick a different guy in this round. I'm with you. I'll take Mark Ingram here, and I had a little like Freudian slip there. Lamar Miller, I think, is undervalued here. I think Lamar Miller is an RB2. When Deshaun Watson was healthy last year, Lamar Miller just went crazy. Yeah, I know the passing offense was insane, but Lamar Miller had a ton of room to run, and this guy's a home run hitter. He's more of like the front end of a like timeshare is probably his ideal. So I do think that Deonta Foreman, when he comes back healthy, will be a threat, but I actually think he'll help Lamar Miller out a little bit. I think Lamar Miller have a big year. He's kind of under the radar right now, and I really don't like anybody else in this range. Kenyon Drake catches the ball a lot, but if you're in a non-PPR, Frank Gore's going to vulture from him. They just drafted a guy. Alex Collins, I agree, is kind of just unproven. Jay Ajayi has 2, maybe 3 viable backups. So I agree. Mark Ingram, Lamar Miller, and not coincidentally, those are the guys going at the end of this range. So you might as well take a wide receiver 5, running back 6.
And I'm just going to touch on the jerk.
Let's look at
McChicken
rounds
again,
7 through 10,
quick.
and this is value city for me. This is where you're going to get a guy that can really make or break your draft. A couple boring guys, but a lot of excitement here. So we'll start off with Marshawn Lynch, Duke Johnson, who's mostly PPR dependent here, but we'll put him anyway. Isaiah Crowell, who's now on the Jets. Rex Burkhead, Tevin Coleman, Tariq Cohen, who we already kind of talked about. Chris Thompson, Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, Ronald Jones, Kerryon Johnson, and Sony Michel. Scott, who catches your eye here?
Yeah, there's a ton here. I think just in terms of like how many carries he's going to get, Isaiah Crowell is going to lead the Jets backfield. They don't like giving the ball to Bilal Powell a lot, pretty much. Like he's just capped off, and Bilal Powell's like 30 now, and Crowell's pretty young. So as shitty as he is as a human, like. And as much as he fucking burned me last year, I don't mind him.
Last year.
Yeah, fuck him. I don't mind him in round 8. Tariq Cohen, I think in PPR leagues or half-point PPR leagues, is going to have a ton of work in the new offense. same with Chris Thompson. Now that Darius Geis went down, he's going to be the third down back. He's going to catch a lot as well. And before he got hurt last year, Chris Thompson was crazy productive.
Yeah.
The only other guys, like I Kerryon Johnson, no. Sony Michel, no, because those two have so many other backs in there. Ronald Jones has looked terrible in preseason. That doesn't mean too much, but it might take him a few weeks to get into it. And Rashad Penny and Chris Carson, Seattle running backs are kind of, I don't know, shitty lately. So I think Crowell, Tariq Cohen, Chris Thompson, and then I like Duke Johnson in PPR leagues. I think he's still going to do pretty well. He's going to catch 60, 70 balls again.
Yeah, I mean, the couple names I'll throw out here, I love Sony Michel. It might just be some sort of what's the thing when you have you love your guy that
crush
you? What's that called again?
Oh, Stockholm syndrome.
Munchausen's or Stockholm. Yeah, that's what I feel like as a Jets fan.
I don't know what that is actually.
One or the other. One of those things. I feel like that's what I have with Patriots running backs because they kill the Jets every year. But I think Sony Michel could be this year's Alvin Kamara. Obviously, he's coming off an injury. He's buried on the depth chart. But this guy is crazy talented, and he's in a high-octane offense. So he's a guy that if you're going to take a dart throw here, which is really what you're doing, he's a guy I would absolutely prioritize in this range. Kerryon Johnson, I just hate watching the Lions, so I kind of shy away from them anyway. And then Ronald Jones. I mean, Tampa Bay has a weird running game. They're productive one year, they're off the next year. If he plays
true.
out the gate, he's going to take this job very, very early. And he's going to be really good. He was good in college. So, Sony Michel, Ronald Jones, two guys I really like here. I love Tariq Cohen. And Chris Thompson's the only one I'll say he himself said he's not going to be healthy until November. He's going to play up until that point. But if he's not going to be 100%, I don't know what I'm getting out of him. The other guys,
true.
The other guys are just so boring in this range. I gotta take an early couple running backs so I can kind of skip this range and maybe grab Sony Michel as my RB4.
Yeah, and this is sweet spot for quarterbacks and tight ends. So don't feel bad if you miss any of these running backs. This is where I'm taking all my quarterbacks and tight ends anyway. Also, Munchausen is when you act like you're sick, but you're really not sick.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was Stockholm.
Yeah,
Same
Stockholm.
difference.
You're welcome.
It's not the same difference, people.
What do you think of that, Rob?
Throwing that out there.
Some knowledge
about
there.
Munchausen.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you do? Just Google it?
Yeah, I just Googled it.
I got Katie
So
sitting
it's
right
not
next to me.
actually-
She told me. She corrected
wasn't
me when I said it
knowledge.
wrong.
Yeah. It was recycled knowledge from Google.
I would have been impressed. It seemed like you knew it at first, but then
Shit,
I
sorry.
just went off the rails with the Google
What are
thing.
you
Yeah,
gonna do?
I have psych major extraordinaire sitting next to me. Just corrected me, of course.
Of course. Well, I was a psych major and I do not remember it. So what does that say about me?
Oh, man. Says a lot. All right, let's look at rounds 11 through 14. This is the back end of drafts. And honestly, Scott, I would be fine if we didn't talk about any of these guys at length because they're all super boring.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams.
Don't take a running back here.
Yeah, please don't. Jamal Williams, Marlon Mack, Carlos Hyde, Ty Montgomery, Adrian Peterson, who just got signed by the Washington Redskins, Gio Bernard, Theo Riddick, James White, Devontae Booker, and C.J. Anderson. Yikes.
Ew, whoa. The only two that are noteworthy for me are Marlon Mack because he might have control of the Indianapolis running game, and if Luck is healthy and is throwing it deep, the running game might not be bad. And Carlos Hyde, he's looked. If you're watching Hard Knocks, he looks really good in preseason too, and he was productive on the 49ers. So there's just a logjam there, Duke, him, Nick Chubb, the second round pick. But maybe let's say you take Mark Ingram and you're waiting 4 weeks. Hyde's going to be the starter for 4 weeks, and then maybe Nick Chubb will take over after 4 weeks. So, but then you have Ingram to fill in. You know what I mean? So something you could do.
Yeah, I actually really like Hyde as well. And then I'll just say Jamal Williams. I'm going to talk about his backup as one of my possible breakout guys, Aaron Jones.
Oh yeah.
But Jamal Williams
yeah.
is a really solid player, and Green Bay is going to have a much better offense this year. So Jamal Williams could be, he's a good blocker, he's a good pass catcher, he's always on the field, he's just all reliable. He's one of Scott's steady Eddie guys. So he's a guy that, especially early in the year, he's a guy you want on your team, I'd say. I have no problem taking both Green Bay running backs because I think they'll be a lot better. Because everyone else in this range, I'm just, no way. Adrian Peterson, no thank you.
I got to get a trademark on Steady Eddies.
You really do. All right.
I said
before we move on,
once a pod.
let's talk about we'll just throw a couple names out there. Undrafted
We'll make a T-shirt.
guys or deep sleepers.
Big T-shirt guy.
Yeah, we got to get some merch going. All right, let's talk about these guys.
Oh, we'll sell anything that you guys will buy.
Yeah,
So.
seriously though. Just tell us.
Sell pencils, binders.
You imagine a UQ like one of those the 4 different color pens? That'd be sick.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, we'll foam footballs, koozies.
Oh, foam footballs. That's cool.
I'll
We'll
just
workshop it
buy T-shirts at TJ Maxx and write stuff on them. Anything.
with a
That's
crayon.
it.
Seriously.
Super underground. All right. Before we move on, I'm just going to present these names without any added commentary. These are your undrafted deep sleepers. Jamal Wilkins in Indianapolis. Nick Chubb. Naheem Hines in Indianapolis as well. There's 2 rookies there now. Corey Clement in Philadelphia. Aaron Jones, who we'll definitely talk about in a minute. Peyton Barber, who is the current starter on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Deonta Foreman coming off a catastrophic injury last year in Houston, but he's a very talented player.
It's time to state your case. We're going to talk about, number 1, your first topic is the best underrated comedy show, in your opinion. And then after that, we're going to move on to best office character and why. All right, so to start off, I'm going to go best underrated comedy show. I'm going to have to go with Naked and Afraid. And I know Mark in the car
that came
is
out of
with me
nowhere.
right now. He knows why. It's not a traditional comedy. It's not meant to be a comedy per se, but it's one of the funniest things I've seen on TV. There's one episode. I mean, every episode is crazy. In the beginning, they start off the show by doing just one-on-one people, so it's like only 2 people are out there. And then like there's another season where they do group stages where there's like a whole group of people that are trying to survive. And it's just I don't know who picks the people for this show, but they know exactly what they're doing. And they just pick the most awkward combinations of people you could imagine.
Wow, that is an incredible
And-
answer.
They just drop them out in the middle of nowhere, and they're naked, and
Afraid?
it's just chaos ensues. There's this one dude that they put him out there, and he was like super religious, I think, and like he's like, God's gonna get me through this, and then he just ended up giving up like 3 days in. And then there's this other episode where it's during the group season. And there's this woman, she's got on this team with this other guy, and this guy's struggling the whole time. And he's like not eating. He's like every challenge, he's just like too tired to do. And they're just like, oh my, get this guy out of here. And then they cut to an interview of the woman, and she's like, yeah, you know, seems like Jim's like really having a tough time. And then they cut to a scene of him, and he's just like face down in like a pile of mud, like in a lake.
You get comedic relief from it then.
And I was watching that with our friends, and like where they're just like, he's dead. And yeah, so for that reason, I'm in. That's number 1 underrated comedy for me.
Wow, I might have to
Nice.
start watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched it, but
recommend
I
it.
haven't viewed it as a comedy, but I'm going to start viewing it as a comedy.
If you go in with the comedy mindset, it's going to change everything.
I haven't seen it enough either. I've seen like one half of an episode, you know. Cool. I like
Yeah.
that. Sean, what do you got?
My best underrated comedy show has got to be a show that was on Comedy Central from, I think it was like 2013 to 2016 or something like that. Review. The show is on no one's radar. Got canceled, but it was, when it was out there, it was just absolute insanity. So we have Andy Daly, who you'll recognize from, I think, Hall Pass he was in. Maybe it was Horrible Bosses, one of those movies. He's also the... he's on some commercial, whatever. You'd recognize this guy. He's one of those guys where you see him and you go, oh, that guy, he's funny. But he plays Forrest McNeil, this guy that gets paid to review experiences that his viewers like send in, and it just gets hilarious. My favorite episode is he has to be a racist for an episode, and it's like maybe the best 7 minutes of comedy like I've ever seen in my life. It's
You
so
showed
funny.
me that you showed me that clip before.
So just, I'm not going to give you too much info on it. Go out and watch it. It's all over YouTube. It's pretty much the only place to find it now. But Review by Comedy Central. So funny.
Actually, that is a pretty funny show on YouTube. You showed me a bunch of clips of that. I'm going to go with a show Wrecked on TBS. So it's a story. You guys ever seen it?
I saw the trailer for that, and I told Mark about that. Wrecked.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, it's a good show.
I wanted to see it, but I haven't gotten to see it yet.
It's funny. It's like under the radar because like no one really knows about it, right? That's pretty much. I just defined what under the radar is. I don't know why I said that. For the viewers,
there's like a radar, and then it's like skating underneath it, and no one sees it on the radar.
Exactly. It's like skating. Yeah, it's so true. It's like galloping underneath it. It's flirting with that line, but yeah, it's a funny show. There's a bunch of strangers, and they're on a plane together, and they wreck. The plane wrecks over, I don't know where it is. It's like a fake place, but crash lands, and it's like the whole story of how they band together. And there's no like really, you know the actor in Robbie in the Jordan Belfort movie.
Oh yeah.
No.
I do.
What? Yeah,
I don't know his name, but I know what you're
what's
talking
that
about.
movie? I forget the name of it now. Wolf of Wall Street,
No
yeah.
idea.
So Robbie in the Wolf of Wall Street is one of the main characters, and he's like fatter, and it's just like the funniest thing. I don't know why it's so funny. He's like fat. It's hilarious.
You're welcome. Sponsor us,
I'll
everybody.
check it out.
Everybody over at
TBS sponsor
Comedy
us.
Central. TBS
sponsor us. Sponsor us. Reviews. Okay. So next we have office characters. I think this is a hotly debated topic.
It really is.
I'm even having trouble figuring it out for myself, but I'm between two characters right now. I'm between Kevin.
Oh yeah,
and
big Kevin guy,
and Creed. I really like the guys that fly.
You take one of them, I'll take the other one because they're probably my two favorites, honestly.
I really like the guys that fly under the radar and just have like little, very subtle moments that you miss, and then you go back and then you see them later. And then it just turns out to be 10 times funnier than what actually happened in the scene. Like, I think I'm probably going to go with Creed because his moments are really rare, but when he does have them,
they're incredible.
They're killer, and they're always super dark, and I love that.
What were those beans that he ate? Mung beans or something?
Yeah, he grows them in his desk.
You like open them and it smells like death. Yeah.
There's the like one of my favorite moments is the Halloween episode. Where, or no, is it? It's not Halloween or something. He like shows up one day, like
it's the murder mystery.
Yeah, everybody shows up to the office like in costumes, and it's like the murder mystery episode.
Oh yeah.
And then Creed shows up in like this bloody shirt, and like somebody walks up to him, and they're like, "Oh, nice costume, Creed." And he's like, "What?" he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, it's a murder mystery day." He's like, "Oh, good timing."
I like the part where they're doing CPR on the dummy, and Dwight's like going crazy, and he's like, "Quick, what do we do? Check for his identification. Check his back pocket for his wallet." And Creed just interjects and goes, "He has no wallet. I checked already."
Oh, Creed! My favorite Creed moment is when he just randomly walks up to Jim and he's like, "Has someone been talking about me having asthma? That can't get out. If it gets out, they won't let me scuba. And if I can't scuba, what's this all been about? What am I working towards?" That is just like the all-time Creed line. With that being said, I got to go. I'll ride for Kevin here. I'm just going to point you to one moment in the show, and that is when Kevin walks into the office with a 10-gallon pot of chili.
Oh yeah.
And it might be the single funniest moment of The Office, where he just obliterates the office rug with his chili. That's all I have to say about Kevin.
His face was just, it looked like he was about to cry.
He tries mopping it up, and he slips and he falls in it.
So I'm between two characters. They're like more above the radar kind of guys. But I like Andy a lot. I just think when he takes over.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's cringy, dude. I can barely watch him.
There's one, I don't know. I like him. There was one episode
he's
where.
endearing.
Yeah. He's not like my favorite character. He's one of them. I think Dwight is like.
Yeah.
You can't say enough good things about Dwight. I think he's my favorite character. But Andy's like a second, maybe, for me, or like third or something. But I just wanted to highlight him. But there's one episode where Will Ferrell takes over as the regional manager for Michael Scott.
D'Angelo Vickers.
D'Angelo Vickers, yeah. And he like looks at Andy. Andy made like some some comment, and he thought he was like the Office funny guy. So that whole episode, Will Ferrell's like, "Hey, thank God we got an Office funny guy. Make me laugh." And it's just like a whole struggle with like Andy to like actually make him laugh because he's being serious about everything. And he just goes through the episode. He's like pouring hot coffee on his like suit and like falling over himself to like as a practical jokes.
Andy is funny in I like the earlier episodes when he's first introduced to the show. He's like the cringiest character.
Yeah, I don't like him in the beginning.
Ever.
He gets better as
he
seasons
definitely
go
gets
on.
better over time.
I think it's funny that you picked out Andy and Dwight as like your two, because I think Andy's the funniest when he's like playing off of Dwight. Like when they're like being super polite to each other, that one episode, and they're like, "Oh, allow me to get the door," and he's like, "Let me go wash your car." That's like peak Andy for me.
Yeah. And also, like, really quick guest appearance of Will Ferrell as D'Angelo Vickers. Hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
It's only hilarious because he's
yeah.
like not being that funny, which in itself is funny.
There's just one part where he used to be fat. That was like a whole thing with him. And he takes a piece of cake with his hands, eats it, throws it down in the garbage, takes another piece with his hands, and he looks at the cake and goes, "No!" This is like vintage Will Ferrell. So good.
Before we go, what Office character are you guys? Who do you identify with the most?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think Daryl for me, because I get compared
I could see that.
I get compared to that actor, like in This Is the End. You guys are like, "Oh, you're him." That black guy. I don't know his name.
I was thinking that for you. You're definitely a Daryl.
Damn, I don't even know. That's hard for me.
Rob, you're Creed.
You think I'm Creed? Yeah, you know what? You're probably right.
You're the closest to Creed out of the three of us, honestly.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Oh my god.
Now that I think about it, it makes perfect sense.
I don't even know. I feel like I'm part, like, as far as like I feel like I'm know-it-all a little bit. So I'm like a little bit of Oscar and a little bit of Jim, I think.
Nice. Good combo. Little combo.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That was pretty accurate, I would say.
Yeah, you fucking know-it-all.
You're definitely in the Jim realm.
Yeah, I like the Jim looks. I kind of like adopted those after watching the show. I like to
Yeah.
I like to pretend there's a camera following me around.
That man ages well, might I
he
say.
does.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
He became a monster.
Hot
Like,
damn.
in the best way.
The best is when he dresses up as Dwight and comes in and puts his glasses on. That's better. Michael? Yeah, so in the channels, let us know your favorite Office character and underrated comedy show. We want to hear from you. And
Yeah, this is your podcast as much as it is ours, so we want to hear from you guys. And also, tell us what you want in the reviews. And the more reviews we get, the higher ranking we get in iTunes, the more listeners, the more we can do with the show. So every single review counts.
Don't be a Stanley out there. Leave us a review.
Don't be a stan.
Wow. Did I stutter? Cool. Anyway, let's get into the stock
legitimately,
market.
like, caught me
Fuck
off guard.
right? Oh my god.
No, that line legitimately caught me off guard. It was a good line. Well
Thanks
done.
for being weird and quiet about it.
I was like,
let's go into the running back
I was
stock
like,
market.
Dad?
while we're at
Lady,
it.
you're scaring us.
Lady, you're scaring us. So we did quarterbacks and tight ends stock market right after the the rounds. So we're gonna do the same thing with running backs right now. So we have a couple of different sections or subsections within this. Biggest offseason rise and fall. Who do you got rising in the offseason and falling in the offseason for running backs?
Biggest rise has got to be Jerick McKinnon. He wound up in just the perfect situation for a running back in San Francisco, playing under Kyle Shanahan. We talked about him a lot in the past couple of podcasts. Jerick McKinnon is just a stud this year. I think he's a running back one. He's going to have a very good year. He's obviously highly priced now because he's risen so much, but he's a guy I want on my team.
Yeah, I completely. I'm going to agree with both of your rises and fallers. Another riser, I would say, is Joe Mixon. He lost Jeremy Hill as his backfield mate, so taking some steps forward in the right direction. And now he's 22 and one full offseason under his belt. That team should be better. Another riser, as well as McKinnon. Who do you got for falling the most in this offseason?
Well, I think LaShawn McCoy is like too easy to go with. He's kind of obvious. So for me, Carlos Hyde has fallen a ton. And he's the same player. It's just on a much worse situation now. Carlos Hyde is a guy that's kind of skating by. We talked about him a little bit before. He's fallen a ton, and he's a guy that, just because of that, you could probably get at a good value this year.
Yeah, I agree with Hyde. He's got a logjam there for carries. I think another guy like LaShawn McCoy kind of fell this offseason a little bit. Some offseasons kind of crap off the field. So, and he's just kind of an asshole. He's 30 now, and I don't know, that
Kind of an
team
asshole.
He's kind of an asshole. Yeah.
I just love the casual way you said that.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick. He's kind of a piece of shit. Anyway, next subsection we got must-have handcuffs. So this is important. We talked about this in our draft strategy episode for handcuffing. We're going to get into particular players, but I think a rule of thumb for the first 3 rounds, you really want to have handcuffs for those running backs. So if you're taking like Christian McCaffrey, or if you're taking Kareem Hunt, Todd Gurley, like you kind of want to handcuff those guys. What do you think, Sean?
Maybe even Joe Mixon too, but
yeah, Joe Mixon with Giovanni Bernard.
for me, the biggest handcuffs that I'm looking at are 3 rookies, and there you go, in the top 4 picks, really. They're backing up top 4 players, and that's Chase Edmonds in Arizona, John Kelly on the Rams, and then Bo Scarborough in Dallas. I think each of those guys, if they wind up through injury becoming the starter, they could give you running back 2 level production. So that's a guy that you definitely want as a handcuff. If you're looking at like Pittsburgh and you're not sure which guy is going to be the handcuff, he's probably not a handcuff. You kind of just you don't want to roster 2 of them. So you kind of just have to monitor who's getting second team reps, who's the real true backup. Then you figure it out. But these guys, I think, have the most upside as far as handcuffs go. Besides like the obvious ones like Tevin Coleman, Gio Bernard, those guys are you probably would just draft as players on your team, so they're kind of have an added handcuff value. These guys are just pure handcuffs. Always look for rookies because they're unknown.
One or a couple that you really want to handcuff is Dalvin Cook, who got hurt last year.
Yes,
you want to
definitely.
handcuff him with Latavius Murray. I pulled that mistake and I took Cook and then didn't take Murray, and I'm kind of like kicking myself about it. Leonard Fournette, you want Corey Grant. Melvin Gordon, you want his backup. I think it's Eckler. Yeah, so just anyone in the top, like any of your top 2 running backs, if there's a clear handcuff, take them. Another guy's like later on, like if you're taking Chris Carson or Rashad Penny, you kind of want the other one. So another thing to keep in mind. What else do we got? We have most overvalued and undervalued. Who you got for overvalued this year for running backs?
Yeah, I know we're going to disagree on this overvalue for me. I know you like Marlon Mack this year. I just don't know if he's that good, and I know he's already hurt. So he's someone that I'm not going to own on any of my teams, especially because I really like both backups. I think you have a backfield of Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines. Like one of them catches the ball and super explosive in Hines, and then Wilkins is kind of your every down back. Marlon Mack might be the odd man out when the season is said and done. So he's a guy that for me is overvalued. And then undervalued, I talked about a lot already, so I won't even go into him anymore. Lamar Miller. He's a good player on an awesome offense. He's just a guy that's way undervalued right now.
Yeah, and my Marlon Mack love is kind of like diminishing. I'm not really taking him in any teams. I like those backups there, too. I agree with you. Overvalued, I know you hate this, but Marshawn Lynch, as he is. Every year lately for me is way too overvalued. He's going like 6th, 7th round. I'm not taking him.
It's still too high. I mean, I agree.
They got Doug Martin now, the Duggernaut. They have DeAndre Washington. They have Jalen Richard as backups. There's 3 running backs that were serviceable in some capacity last year on whatever team they were on. Doug Martin being on the Bucks, but there's too many. There's too logjam now. Marshawn Lynch is 32, I think. He had 700, 800 yards last year. I'm not taking him. Undervalued, I would say Jordan Howard. I know the scheme fit isn't great, but where he's going, like 40th overall or something like that. This guy was a top 10 running back his rookie year and exploded on the scene, and he didn't do that much worse last year compared to his rookie year. So I don't mind him as my running back 2 flex guy, like high end flex. I don't love him, but I think he's getting undervalued where he's getting drafted.
I'm not a Howard guy.
Yeah. Well, agree to disagree. Home run breakout. What do you got for home run breakout this year?
All right, so I already talked about Sony Michel a ton. He's a guy that I really think could be this year's Alvin Kamara. And again, you can get him at a decent price now that he's a little bit banged up. So as long as he comes back, within the first month of the season, he could steal that job. That's said and done. Aaron Jones on the Green Bay Packers is so explosive. He was awesome last year until he got hurt. And you can get him for nothing right now. You can get him in like the last round of your draft. So take Aaron Jones, thank me later.
Yeah, honestly, so if you take like Mark Ingram and he's out for 4 weeks, you got to be careful. Like if that's going to be your second running back, you got to be careful because Aaron Jones is out for 2 weeks. So if you're taking a lot of suspended players, like be careful, be wary of that. Maybe you take like a Chris Carson late rounds because he's going to be the starter while Rashad Penny is on the mend, and he'll probably be good for 2-3 weeks. So he'll fill in the void that you don't have with Aaron Jones. But Aaron Jones was extremely productive last year in the 4 or 5 weeks he was a starter. He was top 10 or 15 running back at that time. And I disagree with you on, what's his name? Jonathan Williams?
Oh, Williams, yeah. Jamal Williams.
Yeah. I disagree with you. His production and efficiency was terrible last year. I think he had like 4.0 or 4.1 yards per rush or something like that, yards per carry. Aaron Jones was way better and is a better scheme fit. I think he's more explosive. So I love him. I like Kalen Ballage. I got to work on pronunciations. He's on Miami. Bellagio. Bellagio.
For GLA.
Kalen Bellagio. He's a rookie running back on the Dolphins. And Kenyon Drake, if you took away a few big runs, like his 2 biggest runs last year, he was kind of pedestrian. And they got Frank Gore, and they're both of them. Like I think they want Kenyon Drake to be the home run hitter, which he's much more suited for. Frank Gore is a dinosaur. Kalen Bellagio should be like more of an every down back, I think, in that team. Biggest bust potential on the other end of the spectrum. What do you got?
This pains me to say because like a month ago I really liked this guy just based on watching his college tape. Ronald Jones has been terrible in preseason. I typically don't put too much stock into preseason, but he just looks lost out there. He has like more rushes than yards. I don't love the Bucs overall. I do like both their wide receivers, but which we'll get to in a later episode. But their running game might be terrible again. So there's no guarantee with Ronald Jones.
Yeah, he's also like one of the youngest players in the NFL, so he might need some time to like develop a little bit mentally and like physically for the game. He's also a small, undersized guy. I'm not going to talk about Kenyon Drake anymore. I think he's the biggest bust potential though, where he's going. People are taking him as like a RB2, and I loved him going into the offseason. And the more I like read up on him and like stats wise, the more I think he's a little overvalued and could be a big bust.
Yeah, and what the Dolphins did in the offseason kind of follows suit there. They didn't have to go sign Frank Gore, and they didn't have to draft a running back, and they did both those things. So I agree with you. I'm a little shaky on him. I still like him as like a flex, but definitely not as an RB2.
Yeah. Big bust potential. You know what I mean? Who you got as your bandwagon running back this year?
Oh, Dalvin Cook. I mean, he's a first-round player going in the front end of the second round. So if you pick in the back end, you basically are getting 2 first-round picks if you get Dalvin Cook in the second round. That's what I think about him. I probably won't own him on any teams this year, unfortunately, but I'll have a ton of fun watching him play.
I got Royce Freeman. I talked a lot about him before. Super productive at Oregon. I think I literally said he was super productive at Oregon last time I talked about him, too. So I'm going to stop talking about him. Biggest bounce-back running back. This is a new section. We didn't do this for quarterbacks and tight ends, but who do you have bouncing back that had an off year last year? Who do you think is going to be better this year?
I'm not going to look too far here. David Johnson is going to be incredible.
Original.
I'm just so excited to watch him play again. He's going to be possibly win comeback player of the year this year. He's going to have to really carry that offense. Larry Fitzgerald's getting a little bit older. Sam Bradford is made of glass, and they have a rookie quarterback behind him. So I think David Johnson will touch the ball a ton, and he'll be just as good as he was 2 years ago. He's going to be really, really good this year.
Jay Ajayi on Philly, I think is the biggest bounce-back running back for me. They lost LeGarrette Blount in the offseason, and he kind of has the keys to the kingdom here in the running back situation. They have Corey Clement, like kind of nipping at the heels, but I think Ajayi will fend him off and might flirt with 1,000 yards rushing.
All right, and that wraps it up for episode 33.
Wow.
33.
Again,
dirty.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a while. Since 2017.
It's been a minute.
Again, stay active in the channels. Leave us a review. We want to try and get to 100 by October. 100 reviews by October. Might be giving out a prize for that as well.
So we need 86 more reviews in a month?
Yeah.
We need 3 a day.
I'll write 84 of those. And then you guys take care of the other 2.
All right. That's fair. Do that. From Jimmy Bickle.
We have noticed a couple of new listeners and new followers popping up in the Michigan and Minnesota area, so I want to give those guys a shout out.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
I think one of them's Chip. It might be Chip. I can't remember the other two, but if you guys haven't left a review, leave one soon.
Why do you like a spider monkey?
DM us about the your favorite comedies and all that good stuff. Stay active in the channels.
Like it.
Yeah.
I threw Grandpa Chip's war medals off the bridge today.
I'm upstate now. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it, so...
Oh, yeah, Rob has a nice...
If you're listening to this and I've already been mauled by a bear, just tell my story and, you know, stay active in the channels, even when I'm gone.
That was dark.
Yeah, Jesus. See you later, darkness.
Okay, well, see you later.
Oh, see you later.